today is a bourbon holiday. That's right, May the 4th is a bourbon holiday. Let's talk about it today on your Daily Dram. May the 4th, 1964, bourbon became America's native spirit. It became America's whiskey. Now, there was bourbon prior to that. It was Bourbon County whiskey back in the day. There were some different Bottled and Bond Act, Taft decision. There were things that set certain standards of identity for bourbon. But it wasn't until 1964, May the 4th, that bourbon truly took on the form, legality of what it is today. Let me read you a little bit, if you don't mind. January of 1963, the 88th Congress of the United States, a resolution was put forth. In the House of Representatives, it was brought by Kentucky Representative John C. Watts, and in the Senate version brought forth by Kentucky Senator Thurston B. Morton. It was a joint resolution that, though not law in and of itself, was expressed as a quote-unquote sense of Congress and directed the executive branch, the president, to make such rules and laws. The resolution that was put forth was House Concurrent Resolution 57 and Senate Resolution Concurrent Resolution 19. The joint resolution read, whereas it has been Whereas it has been the commercial policy of the United States to recognize marks of origin applicable to alcoholic beverages imported into the United States, and whereas such commercial policy has been implemented by the promulgation of appropriate regulations which, among other things, establish standards of identity for such imported alcoholic beverages, and whereas among the standards of identity which have been established are those for, quote, Scotch whiskey, as a distinct product of Scotland, manufactured in Scotland in compliance with the laws of Great Britain regulating the manufacture of Scotch whiskey for the consumption in Great Britain, and for Canadian whiskey as a distinct product of Canada, manufactured in Canada in compliance with the laws of the Dominion of Canada regulating the manufacture of whiskey for consumption in Canada, and for cognac as a grape brandy distilled in the Cognac region of France, which is... Sorry, a little darker in this corner, which is entitled to be designated by the laws and regulations of the French government, whereas bourbon whiskey is a distinct product of the United States and is, unlike other types of alcoholic beverages, whether imported or domestic. Whereas, to be entitled to be designation bourbon whiskey, the product must conform to the highest standards and must be manufactured in accordance with the laws and regulations of the United States, which prescribe a standard of identity for bourbon whiskey. And whereas bourbon whiskey has achieved recognition and acceptance throughout the world as a distinct product of the United States, now therefore let it be resolved by the House of Representatives, the Senate concurring, that it is the sense of Congress that the recognition of bourbon whiskey as a distinct product of the United States be brought to the attention of the appropriate agencies of the United States government, toward the end that such agencies will take appropriate action to prohibit the importation into the United States of whiskey designated as bourbon whiskey, unless it is clearly labeled to show the country of origin as an integral part of its name. Lengthy, but that is the regulations. And then just over a year later, on May the 4th, 1964, the 88th Congress passed a joint resolution through both the House and the Senate. And with that resolution was officially recognize bourbon whiskey as a distinct product of the United States. And with it came some standards of identity, but that premium standard of identity is that from this day forward, May the 4th, 1964, for anything to be called bourbon whiskey, it must be distilled, produced, aged, bottled, manufactured in the United States. Bourbon is a distinct product of the United States. If you love fun facts like that and history and dates and all that stuff, that and a lot more is in my book, Sweet Drams Are Made of These. This is the cask strength edition. You can pick that up on Amazon or at kipgivens.net. Celebrate bourbon whiskey today. We'll see you next time. Cheers.